Hey, this video has two parts in it. If you are here only to see how I develop color positive film, you can jump directly to this location. But before we can develop any film, we need to shoot some pictures. And if you want to see that part too, just stay put, don't go anywhere, and I'll show you. I went on a lake and I took with me a Holgon. A Holgon is a modified Holga that has the same lens as the Holga, but my friend Johnny has put a proper shutter in it, so now I can control exposure time and expose my pictures properly, which is very important with the color positives. They are notoriously needy and they are notoriously precise to expose. You don't want to overexpose color positive film. With this Holgon, I also can put filters on it. So this time I chose an ND1000 filter. So ND1000 filter limits how much light goes through the lens. And ND1000 is a pretty strong filter, so it reduces the light 10 stops. So then when you calculate the new exposure time, you know, on the lake where I went with this camera, it was a daytime, and the film that I had on me was expired Fuji Provia. This is from year 2009. This is a 100 ASA film, and when I measured the time with my light measurement device called iPhone, it was 1/250 of the second. So with an ND1000 filter, you need to multiply that time with 1000, and you get 4 seconds. So for these shots on the lake, the exposure time was 4 seconds. That's why I also needed to have a tripod on me, but I managed to take some selfies, because an additional goodie with Holgon is that I can connect to it with Wi-Fi and control the exposure, releasing the shutter with my phone. So I can put my Holgon there and use my phone to take pictures. This is what happened. hey, that was a lot of fun. I sort of managed to delay the time and take some long exposures in the middle of the day because of the filter. Other than that, the pictures are not that great, but it was a lot of fun. Then in the evening, I still had some color positiveness in me, so I decided to go on a lake for the second time. This time I took with me my Graflex speed graphics with an attached enlarger condenser lens. I've been using this quite a bit and it sure looks and feels good. And then with me I had once again some Fuji Provia. Now this is even older than the one that I used during the daytime. This is expired in '99, so it's over 20 years old. But it still works pretty okay. I had 4 frames of this. It was the sunset time and I get pictures like this. Great! I made 2 trips during the same day. And then after those trips I went downstairs and developed the films. And I guess that's why most of you are here for. So let me show you how I do that. But before we go downstairs, a few words about color positive development. Color positive film is a little bit more picky in terms of getting the exposure right and getting the development right. Unlike color negative or black and white, it does not like overexposing. Also, I had the expired film, 20 years old, just because I happen to have that in my freezer. And you don't add time when the film gets older. Like with the color negative and black and white film, if you shoot expired film, you start to add exposure time as the film gets older. Not so with color positive. You always shoot it as if it was brand new. I have very few gadgets and tools with me. I want to keep this also pretty simple. The tools that I have are a timekeeping machine, an iPhone would be fine, and then you need to have a proper thermometer. This is one that, you know, it's kind of a barbecue thermometer that you stick into your steak when you barbecue it. The key here is that it needs to show you fragments of temperature, like it shows now centigrades, and it shows me tenths of the centigrade. The target temperature for developing color positives is 38 centigrades, 100 Fahrenheit. And in centigrades you can deviate 0.3 degrees, no more than that. So that's why if you use centigrades you need to see, you know, it needs to be between 0.7 or 0.3, around 38 degrees, if you understand what I mean. To keep the temperature right, I use 2 buckets of water. First I fill up just a regular bucket of water with about 39-40 degrees centigrade of water. And then I create a water bath, the same temperature. And I put the ready-made mixtures of the developer into this water bath and let them stand there for 15 minutes so that everything is around 38-39 degrees. For development, I have already mixed the developers, and the mixing of these is the most trivial thing. I use Tetnal Colortech E6, and all of these chemical sets have extremely good explanation how do you make this mix. It's a concentrate that you buy and then you mix it with water. We have 4 different developers in the color positive development. And 2 first one, these temperatures you need to get right. So in a nutshell, the process goes as follows. First, you pre-wash your film with about 40-39 degrees of centigrade water. 2 minutes, 3 minutes or so. Then you pour in your first developer, and this needs to be 38 degrees. It's been in the water bucket, in the water bath, so it should be 38 now. 6 minutes 15 seconds. Then you wash 2.5 minutes. Then you put in the color development, 6 minutes. Then you wash. Then you put in the Blix, the combined bleach and fixer, 6 minutes. Then you wash properly, 10 minutes or so. And then you put the stabilizer. Then you hang your film to dry and you scan and you do whatever you want to do with it. Now, as you can see, the big difference here to the black and white and color negative development is that there's a wash between each and every phase. And I constantly measure the temperature. Constant measurement of temperature is the key to me. And having these 2 buckets of warm water helps me to do that. Let's go downstairs and I show you how that happens. So first I measure the water bath and then the bucket of water, and I keep them a few degrees above the target 38. Every time you pour liquid from one container to another, you lose a degree or 2, so therefore this bucket is about 40 degrees, so is the water bath. Now I pour in the pre-wash, 40 degrees approximately. It warms up the container and the film and then helps to distribute the first developer, you know, properly on the film. A few rotations. You know, I do this about 2-3 minutes. It's not so particular how long the pre-wash is. And I always keep it in this water bath, the developers and then the container, the film container, to keep the temperature even. Then I pour out the pre-wash water, make the first developer ready, put it there, and then get rid of the pre-wash water. Now everything should be close to 38 degrees at this point. I start the timer and pour in the first developer. The first two, first developer and color developer, these are the most important to get right time and temperature wise. Otherwise you will have distorted colors. And you try to pour it in as fast as possible just to make everything even. A few rotations and then a few taps just to make sure that there are no air bubbles, and back to the water bath. Now I always then measure the temperature of the first developer. As it is in the water bath, I open the container and measure the temperature. And even though both the developer and the water bath are slightly above, here in the container it's slightly below the target temperature. So I need to get it higher, about half a degree. And this is how I raise the temperature within the film container. I pour some as hot water as possible from my tap. It's about 65 degrees. And then I just, let the water pour on top of the container. And I mean, you'll learn this pretty fast. A couple of maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and you get easily 1/3 of the degree more temperature. I need to get about half a degree up the temperature. A few taps back to the water bath, and then I'll measure the temperature again. And now we are close enough. It can be 0.3 above or below, so I'm right in the target. Then after 6 minutes 15 seconds, the first developer is done. I follow the time precisely. The time is an essence here, so a little bit before the target time, 6:05 or so, I open up the container and then pour out the liquid. The container is still light tight, even though I opened those little holes. I get rid of the first developer, and now it's important here I pour in some water. So unlike in the black and white developer and unlike in the color negative, between each and every liquid there's a water wash period, about 2.5 minutes. And I need to keep changing the water. That's why this bucket of about 40 degrees water is so handy, because I need the whole bucket for the film developer. There's so many wash phases in between the developers. I just keep on changing new water for the entire 2.5 minutes. So now the first developer is done. It's the first water wash that I'm doing at the moment. And then the water out, this middle water wash, water out. And then I'm ready to put in the next developer, which is the color developer. Start the timer and pour in the color developer. Now this will be 6 minutes in 38 degrees. Close the lid, a few rotations. And back to the water bath. Now 6 minutes, rotation every 30 seconds. And then after the color developer, the second phase is done. Then we pour it back to the container, because we can reuse all the chemicals quite a few times. Up to 12, even 15 times. Color developer back to the container, and now rapidly getting the water wash in. As I said, between each and every chemical there is a wash. About 40 degrees temperature water from the bucket. Maybe it's already 39 because it gets cooler and cooler as it stands there. So the whole process is a constant monitoring of the temperature, and I keep on measuring it in the container with each and every phase, except the last phase, wash and stabilizer, but we get to there in a minute. 2.5 minutes, changing water every now and then, at least 4 or 5 times. Making sure that it's a proper wash between every chemical. And then the bleach and fix phase, Blix phase. This is a nasty looking chemical, but these don't smell anything. Like, some people are scared of the smell, but they don't radiate any kind of odor. So this is odorless chemistry. I don't know what they've done to the chemicals. Some old timers say that they used to smell awful, but maybe it's my nose. I don't know. I get good ventilation also in this room. This is now the bleach and fix combined, Blix, and now the temperature is no longer that particular. You know, between 33 to 39 degrees. So I don't measure this one anymore. I know that it's pretty close, and this is gonna take 6 minutes. I keep it in the bath not to let the temperature variate and change too much, but as I said, not so particular anymore. Then after 6 minutes, pour it back to the container. By the way, get this stuff on your clothes and it's gonna burn almost a hole in there, so this is a bit nasty stuff. And never pour this stuff into the drain, always dispose it properly. And once again, a wash after that. So now we have done 3 phases: first developer, color developer, and Blix. And there's a wash in between. This is now the final wash. Now we need to properly wash the film, because we need to get rid of all the possible chemicals there are. I make sure that I wash it long enough. And now I can take the lid off, because now the film is no longer light sensitive. It's easier for me to wash. And I can sort of peek into my film and see if there's anything, you know, looks good. And the final wash I will do under the running water, just to make sure that there is enough water in this process. Now, I mean, you need quite a bit of water to develop color positives. So for those of you who live in the area where water is scarce, I mean, there is a cost. In Finland we got a lot of water, so I'm not so worried about this. And I don't develop that much color positive, so I don't care. I care, but I don't mind. Proper washing. And then I don't need the bucket anymore, so I can get rid of that. I use a lot of water in the end. I just want to make sure that my film is clean and there's no any chemicals left. The final thing is stabilizer. This is not absolutely mandatory, but it also helps the film to dry without spots or anything. There's a little bit soap in it, I guess, and I don't know what else in there. So this is the final liquid. About 1 minute is enough. And then directly from this liquid I take the film out, and it's just an amazing feeling to get the color positives out from the container. It's always like a small miracle. And then I use these I use these, I don't know what they are called, clothespins, like that you use to hang your clothes to dry. You know, these are handy to get your film properly hanging and then drying. I attach them from the corner so I get as little surface destroyed as possible. Hey, so that's it. No rocket surgery, maybe a little bit of precision mechanics. One more thing that I wanted to share with you. To keep my chemicals in a good order and push the best before date forward, I use antioxidant. It's a gas that is heavier than air, so it removes all the air and oxygen from the bottles and replaces it with whatever that is, and therefore keeps the chemicals in a better shape. You know, with this I have managed to extend the shelf life up to half a year or so, so this is pretty neat. I also put it into the concentrate bottles when they are half empty, for the same reason. To me, I develop so few color positives and negatives that it's always the shelf life that is the limiting factor, not how many rolls I can develop. Hey, it wasn't that complicated, right? You just take it easy and slow. Now, remember there's this wash between each and every phase, and that gives you a grace period. Like, you don't need to think about that wash time precisely. It can be almost whatever. And you can take your time. For example, between these, the first developer and color developer, there's a wash. And you can just leave your film into that wash for as long as you need to measure the temperature of the next developer. So every time you pour it in, you know it's the right temperature. Use those water washes in between as your flex time. Hey, then another important thing is that you can use these chemicals for multiple times. I've used them up to 15 rolls of film, and they don't go bad like at an instant. They start to deteriorate little by little, so you'll be the judge when you don't like the results anymore. And the more you use them, you need to start to add time for each and every phase. And there are rules in these booklets how you add time, how you develop longer as you start to lose some of the strength of the development liquids as you develop more rolls. You'll figure it out. So hey, developing color positives, it's not that complicated. It takes a little bit time and precision, but if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching. Next time something else. See you later.